Hey, welcome back to REI Partners. We're on Landlord 101, training 4 of 4. This is the last that's going to summarize all of the pieces that we didn't discuss in the beginning. And it is kind of a ongoing management education for you to learn about the overall pieces that need to happen with this rental property from everything that happens at tenant move-in onward. We're going to talk about management, rent collection, renewals, emergencies, dealing with contractors, dealing with evictions, things that might happen, all that stuff because it's important. You bought the property, you made a rent ready, you screened everybody, and you signed off. Now you got to get started. So, first section, day-to-day property management. Inspections are going to be your friend. They're not meant to be overbearing for the tenant. They're meant to get eyes on the property every few months at minimum just to see the condition. Remember, this is your property. It's their home, but it's your property. Quarterly or biannual property inspections and stick them to a calendar. Put it out there. Tell them when it's going to be. Again, if it's more than 24 hours notice, they technically can't say no. Check with your attorney on that just to make sure. But you want to schedule it out. Make sure everybody's prepared. Checking key safety items during these inspections: smoke, CO detectors, fire extinguishers, locks, lighting, trip hazards, anything like that, and any maintenance events that or maintenance items that might need to be addressed immediately. Record these, take pictures, and immediately schedule them to get repaired. If you forget about them, they're never going to get fixed. Document them all, timestamp the photos, and save them in your files that we talked about before. Send them a copy of the findings just so that they have a record of it. Routine inspections are your way to prevent future issues from popping up when you go to turn over a unit and now all of a sudden there's a surprise. The maintenance request system is something you should engage. Whether you have a text or an email exchange, make sure it's in writing, but most importantly, use one of the systems that you collect your rent through. Encourage them to go to the Zillow Manager or apartments.com and submit maintenance tickets for this. Then it's tracked, it's time-stamped, you can respond to it, and all of that is going to help you when something happens. It also keeps them contacting you through the proper channels instead of just abusing the contact system. Keep a log, spreadsheet, whatever it is if you don't choose to use those systems, and then set tiers. This is emergent, this is urgent, and this is routine, and just make sure you respond to them appropriately. Preventative maintenance is another big thing. Maintenance calendar is going to be your friend. In the spring, do HVAC. In the fall, gutter cleaning, service the boiler, heating, things like that. You want to replace filters, leaks, and test the major systems before they're going to become a problem. The heating system is going to break on the coldest day of the year for the first time. The central air is going to break on the first warm day of the year. So preemptively schedule these things. Maybe you get a bulk discount with a service provider if you know some in the area for multiple properties. But for now, proactive maintenance helps long term. If you have Section 8 or HUD tenants, they're going to require proof that your systems were serviced with a tag in the last 12 months. So you should do it anyway, but it really is operating a good business and it builds expense or experience and trust with your tenants. Rent collection. We talked about this before. Use the tools available to collect your rent. If you're not going to, have a very good record keeping system. Rent collection is very, very simple. You invite your renter to the unit. You put in their rent amount, when it's due, what happens if they don't pay on time, and the rest is up to them. It is set for ACH, credit card payments, automatic reminders. It automatically applies late fees. It is fantastic. On the first of the month, you get a summary saying this is what got extracted from the bank accounts. This is how much is remaining if there's any due. And it's going to give you summaries if people are not paying on time. The payment terms also has to be dictated for this to work. So make sure your due date is correct. If there's any grace periods or penalties, late fees get built in. And then if it's due on the first, it's due on the first. It's late after the fifth, but it's still due on the first. So make sure they know that, or whatever date are dictated in your lease. You have to enforce the policies. Even if you're trying to be a nice person, it's not going to look really well if you're always letting it go. Always letting it go, and then you have to enforce the one. Start from the beginning, being strict with these. It's going to be your friend. If they issue cash or check, give them a receipt. Send it in an email. Copy yourself on all emails that you send, and track every payment by the tenant using some sort of software. Back up the data to make sure that it's secure and you're not going to lose this thing if your computer goes downhill. Lease renewals. You want to give these people at least 60 days out. Most states require 30 days notice. However, it's It's not a lot of time to move up a family in 30 days and find a new place. Give them some time, knowing that if they want, they could probably just pull out and be like, see ya. Be a good person, give them 60 days notice, and you just want to do it the right way. Contact them and say, these are the terms of your new lease, plain and simple. If you wish to renew a term starting, we'll just call it May 1st through April 30th, these are the terms. Your rent will be this, due on this day. Your security deposit will remain this, or we have to increase it for market demand or whatever. And any new things that might be their responsibility, or any things you're taking away from their responsibilities, utilities, insurance, all that stuff. Put it in writing, deliver it to them in person or via certified mail and via email. Before you sign a new lease, you have to do a walkthrough. Make sure that unit is the way you want it to be, or at least not a disaster before you sign a new lease. Because once you sign a new lease, you're locked in. Doesn't matter what happened. Review the market trends, make sure those adjustments are justified. And if, again, you have Section 8 tenants, they're going to have to verify that your market rate is justified. So go through the tenant history. If for some reason they have an issue paying on time, or if they have an issue communicating or reporting maintenance concerns, those all might play into your decision to renew this tenant. Remember, a good tenant that is quiet and doesn't do anything, and they report things on time and they pay on time, but you don't hear much, those are the tenants you want, and you want them for long term. It might be better to get someone out who's going to be a problem than keep them in. Consider upgrades or rent discounts for quality long-term tenants. This is going to keep them happy and keep them there. And then use the lease renewal as a chance to refresh or clarify unclear clauses. Sometimes they don't care until something happens and they're like, I didn't know my lease says that. Use this as an opportunity to review those clauses. Executing the renewal is very, very simple. I highly encourage you to do an electronic renewal because at this point, the person's already been in there for a year, you know them, and if you're to the point of renewal, you like having them there. After you do a walkthrough inspection, you talk about the terms of the new lease in the letter you already sent, and then you send it to them electronically to sign. Provide a tenant a copy of the tenant's lease to them, and then store it in your secure records or wherever you happen to be. Your bank will likely need a copy of this. Your insurance company might need a copy of this, so keep them handy. Set a calendar reminder to renew that lease at least 60 days beforehand and make sure it's done in writing. So, stuff's going to happen. Emergencies are going to come up. Unique situations are always going to happen. And I cannot imagine, we couldn't talk about this long enough. There's so many things that could happen. It's not even worth getting into the details, but I'll give you a few what ifs. Emergencies, true emergencies, need to be communicated to your tenants before they move in on what constitutes an emergency. No heat in the winter. No cool in the summer is not an emergency. Heat is the only thing that's really required. But if you have air conditioning in there provided by you, it has to work during the summer. Don't say it shouldn't. Water being shut off, flooding, fire, or any other hazard like electricity that could cause harm to persons or property. Those are emergencies. Leaky toilets, not emergency. Loud noise from the neighboring tenant, not an emergency. They have to have a 24/7 contact number of who to contact in an emergency. And if you're not willing to do that, you need to hire someone to be that person for you, whether it's a manager or a handyman or someone, and make sure that they're actually going to be available. Some local cities will require you to put a phone number and an address down that's within a 45-minute response time to that property, or they will require you to have professional management. Because if there's a fire or a flood in the middle of the night and you live 3 hours away, there's no way you're going to be able to come there. So there is liability on the city if they don't enforce this policy. So a good contact number of someone local, and remember, this is what you get for managing your own property. This is part of it. Be ready to answer the phone if someone calls. This is your liability. Respond promptly and document every step you take. From the very beginning, if someone calls and says, we have a fire, what do I do? First and foremost is get everyone out, be careful, use the fire extinguisher, and call 911. Preservation of people's lives is the first thing, and then everything else comes after that. You should have a response plan if you have things like this, people to notify. Other tenants, make sure they're out. Make sure you notify your insurance company down the line. But priority number one is safety of people there. And we can run through specifics as we get into this. So you have emergencies, but they're going to vary. Not all of them will be as serious as a fire or a flood. You might have little stuff, but having those numbers accurately in your system and people who you can contact is very, very important. Some unique scenarios are service animals. A service animal is not technically an animal, and they do not technically need to be on the leases. You cannot discriminate against this, and you have to accommodate service animals if they're registered, regardless of a no pet policy. You must accommodate this person, even though the changes to the property might have to be at their expense. Service animals unquestionably don't even ask. If they have some sort of mental health support iguana and it's certified, guess what? It's coming and you can't say no. If a tenant dies or they abandon the property, we hope this never happens, but it will at some point. Never remove the belongings prematurely. Notify the legal department, call your police, and get guidance from that point. There are things that happen when that person dies or they abandon it that you need to figure out. If it's truly a death, now the estate is now part of that lease, and the estate owns the stuff. The estate has liability to the rent. If they abandon it, there's abandonment clauses in leases, or there should be. But you want to have someone a lot smarter than you advising you what to do here. Recently, I had a fire in one of my buildings. That fire was started by someone. Our legal counsel advised us the second they started that fire and intended to hurt someone else, they forfeited all rights to their belongings in that building. I still had the family sign off on it to make sure that it was okay for me to put all this stuff in the dumpster, unusable anyway. But nonetheless, check your boxes, even though you think it might be a slam dunk in your corner. If there's domestic or safety concerns, which are going to happen, multi-units or even single family with neighbors, do not play police. If it is a civil matter that involves the police, have them call the police. You don't call the police for them. Never, ever get involved with this. Call the police, file a police report, and if that keeps happening, consider that upon lease renewal. You must protect yourself and other tenants by doing what's in the best interest of all parties. However, you cannot get involved in domestic or personal disputes. Don't. Also, take what the tenants say with any sort of reputation or grain of salt, because you might not be able to prove it and you're going to insert yourselves in the place you should not be. You're the property owner and the property owner only. Stay out of it. Call the police. Get involved when it becomes safety related. Evictions. Again, something I hope you don't have to do over time. But if you do enough of this, eventually you're going to have to evict someone. For example, in Pennsylvania, there's a 10-day notice for non-payment. This notice to pay or quit. If they don't pay, you put this on their door. You put a notice. Then you have to file with the district magistrate if it's unpaid. Put it on their door. Boom. You did not pay. This is a notice to pay or quit. I'm filing for eviction. Never change the locks or shut off utilities without a court order, and document everything from the beginning of the issue. Evictions cost money, and they start with the second you go to the magistrate. They're going to require a check for you to file this payment, so go prepared with your documentation of why you're evicting and a checkbook. It's simple. Unfortunately, you got to start it, and you're going to have to represent yourself for this. You could hire someone to do it with you. An attorney will do it very simply, but they're going to charge you a ton. It'd be a good experience for you to go through, or have them teach you how to do it. Documentation really matters. Digital and physical files for each tenant have to be kept, including the lease, the history, maintenance requests, lack of communication, and all tenant communication. Never get rid of anything. This is going to be your defense in the event of an eviction. The court filing, once you file it, you're going to have to attend a hearing, present your documentation. After possession of judgment, which they should grant you so long as your information was presented clearly and you have a good reason to do this per your lease, you're going to file for enforcement and schedule with the constable or sheriff. Scheduling is going to be them physically removing or giving you possession of the unit by court order. Be prepared for an appeal or delay in enforcement, and this will happen. Unfortunately, it's not always clear as day, but be prepared for this, which is why the best way to prevent evictions is starting before you move that tenant in. You want to make sure they are solid to reduce your likelihood of eviction. But good people and good scenarios have bad stuff happen, and life changes really, really quick. So just keep that in mind. There's a reason that this is happening. Try and be compassionate, but you have a business to run, and this is the only way to get them out is with eviction. Be swift and professional. That's it. Alternatives to an eviction, cash for keys is very, very popular. Cash for keys is a way to encourage someone financially to peacefully leave without court. For example, if you have someone who is holding over and they're there past the end of their rent and you know they're going to dig in, you know you're going to have to evict them and it's going to be bad, go to them and say, hey, listen, I want to avoid court. You want to avoid court. I know it's expensive. This is a one time and one time offer only. If you are out in 5 days, I am willing to put it in writing that I will give you $500 cash and your security deposit back if the unit is vacant and empty, and I can come in here immediately. You will be signing a lease termination. The alternative to that is an eviction, and it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for me. Let's save each other the hassle. That is literally cash for keys. It does very, very good things, but it's all about how you propose it. You have to you have to be genuine about it. You have to care. You want to act like you're helping them because you are helping them. You're really helping them help you to get out of this and avoid eviction. But it has to be there and it has to be in writing, and you're willing to do this for them once and one time only. Propose a payment plan maybe to keep the cash flow intact, but in writing. If they're, in arrears by 4 or 5 months, they owe you thousands of dollars. You don't just want them to give up and go. Payment plan, set it up. Actually have a lawyer draft it. Get it in writing. Always have an end date or terminate for informal agreements. If there's no end date, it doesn't end. Tenant communication and relationship management. This is another thing. Running a business, you have to act like a business owner, and sometimes it's not being nice. Clear expectation from day one. We talked about this in the last training video. When they meet you, they should be prompt, you should be professional, and you should explain clearly what your expectations are before they sign that lease and before you give them those keys. Review the key policies during lease signing. Are they able to copy these keys? Are they able to sign a lease over to someone else? Are they able to move mid-lease and expect to just not owe any rent? You want to go over the rent due dates, how to submit requests for maintenance, office hours. What happens when things go wrong? When can they expect to hear from you? And what do you expect to give to them in return is huge from the very beginning. You want to set clear boundaries, but make sure the expectations are very, very clear. Consistent and documented communication. Use one email address and one phone number for everything. If your CRM does it, great. If you have a Google Voice and apartments.com account, that should do the rest of it. Consistency is key. Always follow up on verbal conversations with a written summary. You want to make sure that it's documented somewhere that you had this conversation. Respond within 24 to 48 hours to routine issues. Sooner for emergencies. You should be there within a few hours or have someone there in a few hours if there's an emergency. But if not, hey, listen, the leak sink, it's going to wait till Monday at 9 o'clock. The guys will be there between 9 and 10. Let me know if you're going to be there or if we'll use the key from the lockbox. Simple. They're reporting an emergency to you. That's different. We're coming in now. Sorry. But in the end, it's your property. Don't be too casual or too strict. The extremes are not good. They will not bode well for you in court if it goes that way. You want to be friendly but professional, but not too personal. The second you get it personal, you now have less of a leg to stand on when things get not in your favor. Trust me, I'm a nice person. I'm sometimes way too nice, and it's burned me so many times. Treat everyone consistently to avoid legal risk for any sort of resentment and preferential treatment. Checking in is okay. If you don't hear from them for 3 or 6 months, just ping them. Hey man, how's it going? How's everything on the roof that we fixed a little bit ago? Just let me know if you need anything. They probably won't respond, and that's okay, but you have a documented text message chain with them that shows you care. Okay? Set a schedule reminder every quarter in your calendar to just send a message to everyone. If you just talked to that person a few days ago about something, you can waive that one. But just ping everyone to make sure that they are, aware that you're still alive. The small effort builds goodwill over time and helps you stay ahead of any major problems. It also gives you the grounds to talk to them more frequently, and then when you have an ask, it's less likely to be, oh, this guy, he hasn't talked to me in a year, he just wants my money. The move out process, if they're going to be moving out, or you want them to move out or the lease ends, confirm the lease requires a 30 or 60-day notice to vacate, and then plan on that. Reach out at least 60 days beforehand about the expiration and confirm their plan. So if they're telling you they're not going to renew at the end of the lease, Reach out at least 2 months beforehand. Hey, Bob, just want to make sure that you said you weren't renewing. We're going to expect the unit to be vacant at this time, but please remember rent is due in full and your renter's insurance must be current until that time. Utilities must be kept current. If at any point you want to leave earlier, that's fine, but your rent's still due. And if you want to extend, please know that your lease ends on this day. We must discuss month-to-month terms moving forward. Month-to-month terms after a long-term lease usually change significantly. So if it was $1,000 a month for a year, it might be $1,200 on a month-to-month lease because that's insecurity for you as the owner and for them. But they need to pay a little bit for that flexibility of leaving on a month-to-month. During the move-out process, you want to do a walkthrough. This is to check the other side of the box during the walkthrough when they move into the property. Give them a preliminary inspection 1 to 2 weeks before move out as a walkthrough just to make sure there's nothing big going on. If there's something big, we might have a different problem. But preliminary inspection and then a checklist of things that they should fix or clean to maximize their deposit return. Use that as a way to get your place clean. Hey, listen, guys, this is really dirty. There's a hole over there. If you can fix these things beforehand, you'll get your security deposit. Otherwise, we're going to have to hire a contractor here to itemize all this so I can see how much it's going to cost. Use the pictures from when they move in as leverage to show them exactly what happened. The walkthrough, inspection and key return. After that, right before the lease is over, schedule a time to get the keys back and to do a final inspection. Take photos on this inspection, do a walk around with the tenant, and log all of the stuff you see. Collect all the keys and confirm the final rent is due. Also, at this time, if everything looks good, you can come prepared with a security deposit check for them if you want to do that. Then it's one less thing you have to do. However, if it doesn't happen, you have to give it back within 30 days if nothing's being taken back from it. If you are holding back security deposit, you must record why with contractor's receipts. Do not get yourself in a position of having to go to court over a small security deposit. Just be thorough with it and don't say, oh, $50 for that, $100 for that. Have a contractor give you an estimate and just go with it because then it's someone else other than you and it's objective. After that, prepare the unit for the next tenant. You want to make this thing ready to rent because the minimal downtime means more profit for you, but every month of vacancy kills one entire year of cash flow on a typical rental property. So just keep that in mind. Every month of vacancy is an entire year of cash flow typically for an average rental property for that unit. Address the repairs immediately and then change the locks. Always, always, always change the locks. If you have a digital punch box, change that code. Get the old one out, completely reprogram it. But if it's a card key, change the locks. Don't care what it is, how nice the doorknobs are. You don't know who they gave those keys to and how many people have copies of it. So you don't want your new tenant to have any sort of security problem. Contractor and vendor management is something you're going to deal with a lot in real estate investing. You want to build a reliable network of people in your area through various trades. Maybe you have a management company or someone who could do some of this for you, or maybe you're just going to coordinate it, handyman that could do this stuff. But sometimes you're going to need specialty people. Preferred vendors for plumbing, HVAC, electrician, and general handyman are going to be your best friend. You might have to coordinate this, but again, this is the choice you make with managing your own property. You have to have a list of these people. Call your agent team or whoever is in your market to get their preferred list of vendors because they're probably vetted. If a team of investor agents or investors has this type of group, you probably have a good solid group there that they've vetted and they've done deals with before. They know they're not going to pull one over on you. If they haven't and you're vetting new people, vet them carefully. Request proof of insurance. It's okay. You don't want to have someone in your building who's not insured. God forbid something goes wrong or they get hurt. Again, this is your business. Run it the right way. If you have service agreements like pest control, something like that, you want to make sure you have those service agreements and get them in writing. Outline the scope, availability, and payment terms. Include instructions for access if they're not home. If the vendor list is little stuff that they're going to fix, give the vendor list to the tenant. Say, hey, for all this, you call them. That's on you. That's not me. All has to be negotiated pre-lease. And then if it's an emergency number other than 911, make sure they have a contact list in their apartment somewhere. You want to track the vendor performance and make sure they're actually doing the jobs you hired them to do. The worst thing you can do is hire someone to do that and then not see it through. Not to micromanage, that's different, but see it through to make sure it's done correctly. Because if you have to call them back, it's a inconvenience for you, them, and the tenants. Keep records of the response time if you're worried about that. Pricing and tenant feedback. These are all important things. Remember, tenants are usually not going to say anything good about these things because they're really just fixing your problem. The tenants don't really seem to care from my experience. If the vendors are not holding up to their end of the bargain and operating like you would, fire them immediately. Move on. You're running a business. You're not being nice again, even if they're your friends. They have to deliver consistent and timely service that fits your budget. So the final tip, this is a business, manage it like a business, and you're going to hear us say that over and over again all the time. It's all up here. Treat it seriously. Consistency, professionalism, and follow through is the most important thing you can imagine. So if a tenant has an issue or a question, respond promptly within reason. The systems are great to help you manage. They don't protect anything though. They just help you run it. They save you time, the sanity, and potentially future cash flow. So this is Managing Rental Properties 101. This is the last of 4 videos in the series. We're going to do a bunch of small videos about a bunch of other small subjects that you might have specialty with. But for now, this concludes the Landlord 101. Let's get to work. If you have any questions, please give us a call.